Carr, C-A-R-R. I live at 3 Crestwood Drive in Chatham. I'm not a direct neighbor, but I do have a carried interest in the parking lot item. I started on this in, I guess, mid-2013 with basically deja vu, same kind of discussions, and for whatever reason it got tabled and it's back now. I guess I not disagree, but enlighten a little bit here, the gentleman before me. The issue about the trees, again, there was an there was a rationale for cutting down some of those trees. To my understanding, it was a storm that occurred whenever it was, I guess in 13, somewhere in that general area. And because of that, it was deemed by the police folk to be imminent hazard, so they went and cut certain trees down. That was the ostensible reason for doing it, so we'll give them a pass on that. Number two, they've been talking again about this $250,000 to $300,000 cost that now is magically $100,000. My understanding is the cost really hasn't changed. It's just that our friends at the borough, Mr. Denave and company, are underwriting that incremental cost. So $100,000 is still being spent by the Board of Education, which is fine. So we say we're saving money. That's courtesy of the borough who is doing the work. If we had to contract that out, I think the cost would still be $250K or $350, whatever the number happens to be. Because the order of magnitude of the parking lot, I believe, is pretty much the same thing you had in 2013. 20-odd spaces, something around there. So I think, just to clarify that, at least that's my understanding. So I want to put that aside, because again, that's more noise. We're getting into arguments about whether it had the ability to take the trees down and all that. Put all that aside, let's get to the merits of the gentleman's discussion here. Item number one, I think, again, a third of an acre is very, very valuable. Again, I ride my bike or walk past it periodically. I think it's very important to have that there. I understand safety issues, I understand convenience issues and all that type of thing. One of the arguments I guess I heard was that it was a safety concern, and that's why we need to have the parking lot. Well, I guess I would turn that on its head. If it truly were a safety concern, as opposed to strictly a financial concern, then that should have been done 10 years ago. Just like we had to cut the trees down because of emergency reasons, because police folks said, you know, it's an imminent threat. If it really were that type of thing, then obviously it should have been done, and cost should not be a factor. And Mr. Tequila, I believe, told me at one point, the cost of doing 20 spaces versus 30 spaces, there was a cost differential, so I couldn't justify 30, but I could justify 20. So therefore, there was some financial dimension to all that, as opposed to strictly a safety dimension. So what I would argue is that you take a look at, say, 20 spaces, and I don't know what the exact metrics are, again, the police folks will probably know better, say 15 linear feet per car. 15 linear feet times 20 cars is 300 linear feet. So why couldn't you go around to the neighbors and say, okay, Oliver Street this week, XYZ Street that week, whatever, 300 linear feet, you're going to have to absorb 8 hours or whatever of school official type parking, okay? And the trade-off is either you get the aggravation of having the people in front of your house for 180 days, once a month or whatever, 180 days spread out to the 3 or 4 streets, versus a third of the neighbor goes away. It would seem to me that instead of people saying, I don't want people parking in front of my house, if they knew the trade-off of, well, if they do park in front of my house, maybe the third of an acre stays there. If they don't park in front of my house, I get a nice front macadam, but by the way, down the street we have a bigger parking lot. And my concern through this whole process was I hear all the planning board discussion, I hear safety discussion, I hear these other things, but I don't hear the trade-off of have the people who actually have immediate interest, as well as people like me who have a general interest, been consulted to say, okay, what is the trade-off? Can we fully load the cost of the convenience of not parking on the street versus green goes to black? Okay, and I guess I would ask, maybe would anybody know, when you had all these discussions, I understand a lot of different committees, etc., did anybody run those traps or anybody vet that issue about, do we want to go back to the people and say, do you want to take some aggravation and absorb, again, once a month for a week, 300 linear feet of cars parked there instead of in a new parking lot? Okay.